All right, thanks, Jeff. All right, so next up is comments from citizens and from citizens present. This is your opportunity to discuss anything that is not currently on the agenda. And if you would, when you come up to speak, please identify yourself and where you live. And this is for residents of the city as well as property and business owners of the city only. Keep your comments brief, please, and try not to repeat other people's comments. So having said all of that, does anybody have a comment? Any comments? Any comments? Any comments? Hearing none, we'll close that portion of the agenda. Next up, we have swearing in for Police Sergeants David Massman and Sergeant Kyle Knepler. And doing the swearing in is the Honorable Susan Garrity.
Get out of your chair, huh?
I'm Lieutenant Jason Munich with the Police Department, and I'm just here to showcase a couple of our new leaders. This is a proud moment for us in the department when we're able to do that. And these two gentlemen here are the best of the best. So on May 20th, 2023, the Police Department promoted two sergeants. Sergeant David Mossman, this is David, who will be assigned to a night patrol supervisor, and then Sergeant Kyle Knepler, who will be assigned to the detective division, where he will serve as a detective sergeant. Sergeant Mossman served as a patrol deputy in Pierce County for 2 years before joining the Hudson Police Department in 2019. Sergeant Mossman has worked as a patrol officer, field training officer, state certified instructor for the department. Sergeant Mossman has also been the lead representative for the Badger Tracks, which is a state computer system used for citations and traffic crash reporting. Sergeant Knepler has worked in law enforcement for 15 years previously with the combined Locks Police Department and the North Hudson Police Department before joining the Hudson Police Department in 2016. Sergeant Knepler has served the Hudson Police Department as a patrol officer, a field training officer, a detective, and a state certified instructor specializing in chemical irritant and pepper ball instruction. Judge Garrity?
Who goes first?
Up to you guys.
Go ahead.
Okay. Would you raise your right hand, please? I, Kyle Knepler,
I, Kyle Knepler,
having been appointed as Detective Sergeant
having been appointed as Detective Sergeant
for the City of Hudson Police Department,
for the City of Hudson Police Department,
affirm that I will support
affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
and will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of said office
discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I, David Massman,
I, David Massman.
having been appointed as
Oh,
Go ahead.
Sorry,
having been appointed as Night Patrol Supervisor
Having been appointed as Night Patrol Supervisor
for the City of Hudson Police
for the
Department,
City of Hudson Police Department,
affirm that I will support
affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially
and will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of said office
discharge the duties of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everybody, and congratulations. See you, Kyle. All right, consent agenda.
Approve the meeting minutes from May 15th, 2023, regular council meeting. Approve claims in the amount of $670,352.77. Approve secondhand jewelry and article dealer mall flea market. Approve taxi license and taxi cab drivers. Approve applications for amusement device owner. Approve agent changes. Approve Resolution 1723, approving a consent of the city to a conditional payment of grant pursuant to the development agreement with the St. Croix Meadows LLC. And approve of 2023 room tax allocations.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved.
Oh, didn't we need a roll call?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Thank you, Joyce. My bad. Roll call.
Morissette?
Yes.
Wakefield?
Yes.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Kennedy?
Yes.
Brock?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Excellent. Motion's approved. Next up, proposed library board ordinance amendments.
Presented as the proposed changes to the library board ordinance, and then I know that this afternoon, Councilmember Knudsen had sent out an email to the council with some other proposed changes. So, at this point, council should discuss and decide what kind of what sort of changes you want to see to what's been proposed, and then we can go from there.
So just to clarify, what did we do at the last meeting? What have we approved so far?
So basically, what we did last meeting was I presented the, basically just the notice that we would be advertising for an interim, basically library board. And at that time, it was a 9-member still, is what we had approved, going ahead and advertising for that. So what that would be is depending on how the council proceeds, we'd be appointing that board now, who would serve as sort of the interim library board to work with the existing library board, kind of come up to speed, when this all goes into effect in January next year, they would have at least some history with the current board, and then January 1, when it becomes a city-only library, that board then would turn into the new city library board.
So, but at the last meeting, the council approved the concept of a 9-member board with up to two of the board appointees being from outside the city.
Yes. But we did not update the ordinance or anything yet, so we talked about that. It has to happen eventually to address
Sure.
kind of those sort of things.
Okay.
That was the point that I brought forward, and thank you very much for putting it on the agenda tonight. I think that it is important that we start working on the ordinance. There might be changes that we do later this summer or this fall, but I feel more comfortable if we start crafting the new version of the ordinance. And it is true, one of the vote also was a choice between that proposal that the mayor preferred, which was 9, stand up the library board now, 9 members, including 2 non-residents, whereas the other proposal that I had brought forward in both March and May was to suggest an advisory committee that would just be interim, 3 people to advise the council for a 6-month period. So that idea was rejected, and we did vote to move ahead with the library board now, and so I'm not bringing up that as a question at all. And I do appreciate the work that's gone into, that was in our issue packet for the ordinance, and I realize I just sent it out this afternoon. I wanted to give you some chance to read some of my thoughts and my recommendations, or what I think I would like to suggest for our ordinance going forward. And so I would like to discuss some of those items first. So I don't know how we proceed. Does someone need to motion and second, and then we discuss, or how do you prefer?
Well, you have recommendations there, so.
And also, though, on the agenda is the ordinance, which the city administrator
But if you note, though, I do put on the agenda that I recognize that there probably was going to be some discussion about this, and that this was kind of a bigger topic. So what I do say in my memo is that the council should discuss what's proposed, make any changes you want. Once acceptable, we'll bring back a final ordinance for adoption. So if you make any changes, if you want to adopt what we have, that's fine, what we presented. But if you make any changes, what I would recommend is allow staff to make those changes, bring them back to the next meeting then for the council to formally adopt them, because I don't necessarily feel comfortable making changes to an ordinance
and I don't
without
feel
it in
comfortable.
writing.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable wording it,
Yep.
on the fly either.
Yep.
That's why I did write a little bit down. if it's okay with you, I'll just present so that the public here can hear the ideas that I was bringing forward, and these are included in the email that council members received this afternoon. First of all, I believe that we should choose the name of the library. That is our role. It is now a municipal library. It is no longer an area library. And of course, the joint area library, we know that that is being dismantled. The current Board of Library Trustees kind of informally, I would say, chose a name about a year or so ago. It's on their website right now. It's Hudson Area Library. Our ordinance still calls it Hudson Area Joint Library there, get all of the letters in order. So it is my feeling that it should just be the Hudson Public Library going forward. I do understand the sentiment of, welcoming and embracing everyone in our area. We've talked about this other times about the greater Hudson School District is a part of our greater community that Hudson is the center of. And our library is going to continue to be a part of that, but the real decision-making, guidance, the finances, so on, the appointment of the Library Board of Trustees will come from the council, our mayor only, whereas before it was set up that the mayors or the leaders of the different municipalities appointed their representatives. So I would recommend that we call it the Hudson Public Library, and I listed for you the examples just off of the St. Croix County website. Virtually every library in the county is called a public library. Baldwin Public Library, Deer Park Public Library, Friday Memorial Library, which is in Richmond, etc. I don't need to read all of them. One is called Hammond Community Library. Let's see, Woodville also chose Woodville Community Library. So it may seem like a minor point, but I do think, again, this is a library that we're responsible for. And that's probably one of my main goals here in these early summer months, is that as council members that we really step up to our full understanding of our role. It is somewhat limited based on state law. The state dictates, we provide funding, then the Board of Trustees and the Board of Trustees selects the library director, supervises, guides, and they choose together how to spend the money that is allocated. So again, I do think, so that is one point that I would prefer. Again, that would be my motion, is rather than calling it the Hudson Area Library, which is included in the amended ordinance that Aaron sent out. Then the next item that I think is worthy of discussion is the makeup of the Board of Trustees. Again, they are very critical, very, very critical role. I feel like most committee groups work better, smaller group, people show up, they know they're needed, let's come to the meetings. The city council, there's only 6 of us to run the whole city, plus our mayor. I'm not sure why we would need 9 members. So I am recommending that we'd have 7 members, and I also would make a motion that we specify Hudson residents only. Again, the funding is coming primarily from the city of Hudson. There will be funding that comes from our former municipal partners through the county reimbursement system, but the municipalities, our former municipal partners, or soon to be former, as the joint library is disbanded, they won't have a role in the funding and the spending, et cetera. And I feel like, again, that we need to make that a Hudson resident role, and to find people that are willing to serve. I really appreciate all the people that have served over the years. It's been a unique, not totally unique in the state. There's a dozen of them. I don't know, Shelley's here, 20 maybe in the whole state. I don't know what the number is of joint libraries. Most libraries operate as a municipality. And I would recommend that we specify Hudson residents only. If the council prefers to have non-residents on, I would suggest that we use wording that says adjacent municipalities, because it's not specific in here. For example, maybe somebody from River Falls is just great, knows all kinds of stuff about libraries. Well, that's not an appropriate fit for us. So we want to have them from our adjacent municipalities. Another item here is I would like to specify that the mayor will appoint someone from the council, not shall, is another point. Also, kind of a small point here, but detail I think would make things work more smoothly, that while we're standing up the library now and it'll become official January 1st, after that date, I feel like the appointments should start on May 1st. That fits in with the typical appointment schedule that the mayor does every spring. And that way new people can get started together. I also was suggesting that the election of the president would happen. The state specifies within 60 days of formulating the new library, because there will be a turnover occasionally. Some people may choose to continue and serve, and the mayor may continue to appoint those, but there may be new people coming on. And so a new president should be chosen within, I believe, 60 days. So I put the specification that the appointment dates would start May 1st, and the choice of the new president would be by the 1st of July. So that's kind of in a nutshell. Some of them are kind of specific nitty-gritty, but also some that I'd like to have input and comments from other council members, what you think about those ideas.
Well, I'm not stuck on a number, so 7 or 9, I could go whatever, but I think, you know, as we separate from these agreements throughout our community, I think maybe a nice thing to do would, maybe it is the Hudson Community Library. It doesn't give any connotation otherwise, but being, hey, people are passionate who live in the township, use our library, use Hudson, that's their hometown. It is Hudson. So maybe community would work for us here. The rest of the stuff, I think, is just a point of privilege for the mayor, and I don't have any issues with that, but I'm not caught on a number either. I think 9 would represent some of the outside-in community. I agree with adjoining community, or, adjoining, just so we have that consistency on the board. There are passionate people who will consider that library theirs that live outside the city limit.
And if I can weigh in, I would rather keep the name as it is in an effort, when I think about being a Golden Rule city and trying to build goodwill, and it is our neighbors that are open to use that library, and it just kind of puts up a barrier, in my opinion. Additionally, with respect to funding, you know, I think that might be a little bit of semantics, because those township people do pay, it's just through their county taxes.
Absolutely.
So
That is true.
I am comfortable keeping area on there, because we also have to think about, if we change that, that would be changing a lot of collateral materials, library cards, letterheads, business cards, so there would be extra money that would be at a cost to our taxpayers. I am comfortable having folks serve on the committee, as long as they are adjacent. I can certainly accept that terminology that you brought forward. That makes sense to me. And I just have heard, you know, based on city staff recommendations, they would like to see it stay at 9, and I'm comfortable with it being at that number, and I'm certainly comfortable with the appointment schedule switching to May, like you had indicated. So those are my perspectives, and I just think in a time when we want to encourage people to come, because that will help drive the circulation rate, which is something I think you have interest in Councilmember Knudsen. I would certainly hate to alienate anybody by changing a name.
Well, I've got some comments to make too. I agree with Sarah that, you know, branding can be expensive to change. And so, in my opinion, I think that a request to change the name should come from the library board itself to the council, so that we can change the ordinance based on a request from them, rather than for us to do it unilaterally. Because they have done some branding. I know that when I was on the library board 8 years ago, there was they were working on starting some branding around the name. And I know I've gone through the process now with Northwood Tech, and it's a big process if you do it right. And I wouldn't want to see it done haphazardly. I think that I agree with you that we should have, there should be, or one member must be from the council. I think that that's really a smart idea, to have a representative from the council on the board. I think that if we're going to have the people serving from outside of the city of Hudson, and I do agree that 2 people from outside of the city, I think that the surrounding area should be represented. And so instead of saying, you know, the neighboring communities, we should name them and say North Hudson, St. Joe's, Town of Troy, and Town of Hudson, because I don't think that the St. Joe's is actually contiguous with the city. So we want to make sure that that we include them. I agree with changing, this was one of the things that I noticed was that it said, that the three of the board members would have initially serve a 2-year term. But if their term actually starts January 1st, then it would be a year and then several months. And then, yes, the elections of officers should be done at their May meeting. I think that it's a good idea. Let's start with 9 members. We can always reduce the number of members if the board finds that 9 is an unwieldy number. So those are my comments.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I guess, can you guys hear me out there?
Mike, we can hear you, but barely.
All right, I'll try to speak loud. The word that pops out on me is that the 2 of whom may reside outside the city. I think we have to consider that word may still gives us the ability to only select Hudson residents, city of Hudson residents. If we took that word out and said, they must be Hudson residents, that we're basically handcuffing ourselves. So I just want that word's important to me. That may, the word "may" leaving in there, it doesn't mean we have to, but we have the ability to. If we find ourselves in need of qualified people, I'd hate to kind of handcuff ourselves to have a smaller group. And then my other point is a question. In this, it also says that paragraph B, in addition to the 9 board members, if St. Croix County is entitled to appoint additional members, do we not, the word "if" is what I'm stuck on. Do we not know if they're allowed to, or do we know that they are allowed to?
It all depends on the amount of funding that they end up providing. And so depending on what that percentage is, they may get to appoint additional members. And then at that point, it's also up to them if they want to. Just because they do, even though they potentially could provide the enough funding to trigger that, it is up to the county board to decide if they actually want to appoint anyone or not.
And that could be anywhere in the county.
Thanks.
That could be any one of the libraries, and they have yet to appoint anybody.
So, and that would be more, it could be more than 1 member. It says
Right.
additional, so if we start with 9, it could go up to 10, 11.
Possible.
But it's based on the percentage of the funding that they
Yep.
provide to the library.
And that could be a trigger for us revising the ordinance at that time, so that we keep the
Manageable.
numbers
Well,
to a reasonable number.
So, to weigh in on this specifically, first of all, 9 is not an unwieldy number. That's not a problem, especially given that, up to 2 would be coming from outside of the city. If on the other hand, the county were to weigh in and say, we want to add members, then no way would I want to reduce the number of people that are going to be representing the city on that board. In fact, we may want to appoint more. So anyway, that's just a thought. I just wanted to put that into a different perspective. I'm sorry, who else? Who is speaking? Lynn, Joy? All right, so from my perspective, you raised some good points, Joyce. I think that the language for, if we're going to allow for 2 or up to 2 others, and is that statutory?
It is statutory, correct. The statute says, and I've got it right here in front of me, members shall be residents of the municipality, except that not more than 2 members may be residents of other municipalities.
Okay.
Well, if I could comment on the list, thank you, Joyce, for listing off the former partners. For one, St. Joseph is not contiguous, and they are also a kind of a split township. A lot of people in St. Joseph go to Somerset, and the same is true for Troy Township. So we could specify you know, the ones that are closer. I know that I'm trying to look forward. We have a lot of very dedicated people that have served right now. And this isn't meant to be unappreciative or dismissive of that work. It's just looking forward to how is the best way to run a municipal library, because it is a municipal library. We can use the word area, we can use the word community, but the basic core funding comes from the city of Hudson. Depending on the circulation usage, you're absolutely right. Sarah, your comment was excellent about that funds will come from those taxpayers, from the people of North Hudson, their town of Hudson, based on the usage on circulation rate. But the real budget that I think our trustees are going to work with is going to be coming from us, because that's a little bit of unknown, if I'm not mistaken. How much they would get in county reimbursement in a year could vary. We find out in March.
Yeah, it's going to be based upon circulation, and that number is likely, very likely to increase year over year because the cost of circulation is going to go up. And so
Yes,
it's
and our
it's a
taxes are
moving,
going up, too.
it's a moving target.
That's why the cost of circulation is going up and our taxes are going up.
Well, the cost of circulation will go up because presumably they will be getting additional, they being the library, will be getting additional funding more than what they've had right
Yes.
now, which will inherently
Yes.
increase the cost of circulation.
It does, and absolutely back to what Sarah was saying, and you have mentioned it before too, Joyce, I know you have a very good understanding of it, we need those people to patronize the library. We want, the interesting thing is we are, and this will be further discussion later, this summer, or in fall as we work on the budget, we're tied by what the state has dictated, that the reimbursement, the payment that we get is by circulation. And as our world changes, everything becoming more digital. I mean, I know we have a lot of digital books that are lent out. They're not cheap to acquire or to have, and that counts as a circulation. There's other things that people can check out and use. But a lot of what the library does, and that's why it is a great community asset, is it's a place to meet. There's events, there's clubs, there's organizations, after school, preschool story hour. All those things may or may not trigger a circulation if the person comes and enjoys that event but leaves without checking out a book. We won't get reimbursed for their visit that day. So that'll be something we'll have to focus on and think about as we move forward. And it's not a criticism of the library or the staff. When I talk about the circulation being low and we are flat, that's the nature throughout a lot of libraries, I think. They have become more of a community center, a resource center, less of removing a physical item from the shelves or even a digital checkout. But that's for a later topic. So I appreciate what you're saying. And again, I felt that it'd be important that we have this discussion today. So thank you for engaging in it.
A little bit back to the rebranding question. If they're changing joint already, I'm assuming.
It's gone.
But that's never been on like their letterhead or materials. It's always said Hudson Area Library.
And I'd be all right with area for now, but like Joyce, you suggested, possibly let them bring a recommendation to us, but it could get bogged down on a lot of different things. And we should remain pretty focused on that it is a Hudson area or community library.
Well, that and, the foundation and the Friends of the Library are made up with a lot of residents from the other municipalities, and so we want to make sure that they still feel that they're a part of this library, because we depend on all of them to help with the library.
Just changing it to, go ahead.
To pick up where I left off, once again, I think it's important that we hang on to the notion that representation from outside the city is important to the I don't want to say existence, but the ongoing operations of our library. I think it's important, especially given that we've got some people that have committed an awful lot to our library. It's not their fault that their municipal leadership chose to withdraw from the joint library. They are still as committed as ever. And I want those communities to know that our commitment to providing them access to our library and our services, our programs, our materials, it has not waned. It's the same. I think that's really important. I think Joyce also kind of touched on the Library Foundation, as well as the Friends of the Library, who have made major commitments to our library, both with their financial resources, their time, their energy. They've been there a long time, and we've been through a lot when, we brought in the consultants to help us with our strategic plan going forward, which has been very successful. And I wouldn't want to walk away from that. The people that were engaged in that are the people that serve on those boards, as well as the people that contribute to our library. And I think, I can't remember, but I know at one point, maybe probably still, the majority of the funds that were coming into the foundation were from outside the city limits. And we do not want to disenfranchise those people or give them a sense of disenfranchisement.
We don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, but it's also about affirmatively wanting to embrace them. Like I said, it was not their decision that their leadership of their respective communities decided to withdraw from the joint library. They haven't. And I think that we want them to know, I think we want everybody to know that this is a community or area-wide resource. And I think we, just by the name itself, says an awful lot. It goes a long way in letting people know that there's a comfort level, that they're still very much welcome here, and we feel that they are very much a part of our library and our community. I mean, how many times you go out there, you've got people that honestly believe that they live in the city of Hudson.
Right.
Absolutely. Even though they don't. They might be from North Hudson or the town of Hudson, something with Hudson in the name. So I don't want to alienate those people, and I really do want to make the case that there are people that are currently on the board that I think would really be a benefit, an asset to remaining on the board going forward. So,
Could I make one more comment regarding the foundation? It was interesting when the library had their open house recently after all the storm damage was completed, and they had a nice display history of the library and the foundation. And there was an article from 1992, 30 years ago, where the Library Foundation was initially started, group of citizens, photo in the paper, and their express goal when they were founded was to buy a building for the library. They were located in the Carnegie Building, the old library, and sought a better, better environment, more room. The city made arrangements to move them to the building on 4th Street, former municipal building. Now it's privately owned. And then later, the move to the lakefront address right now, because mostly the foundation members were really wanting a better, more aesthetically pleasing building than the one that they were located in. And so my perspective, having observed it for many years, is actually the Library Foundation has asked for a lot. They have definitely been generous volunteers, given of their own time and money, but they've also set goals and made plans that they really haven't completed. When, Aaron, I think it's you that's chimed back to, police chief is not here tonight, but how long did he think he was going to be in the basement of the current building on 1st Street? And he'll say 5 years. And the reason for 5 years is because the Library Foundation was going to buy that building from the city. That was their express statement at the time that the library first moved in there. Well, obviously, there has been a discovery process that the building isn't as ideal for the book stacks and so on to bear the weight. I think the collaboration of the two departments, police department and the joint area library, has worked okay, but everybody wants more room. And if you'll look back, if you want to reference while we're looking at this ordinance in the next few months, the red line ordinance that I submitted in March did actually include a section about specifying the guidelines. If the foundation does move forward, they may still take that step and buy a building. They do have the right to do that, to buy a building for the library, express built, or buy something in Hudson that's available and move the library there. And we need to have something that in our ordinance before we because that protective clause is in the joint library agreement, the original one from 15, 20 years ago. So I would like that we be sure to include that provision before we completely sign off and close the joint area library, that there is, we're their landlord, basically. If they were to give notice, if the foundation would decide that we're going to move the library, we found a location, big generous donation, something like that could happen. And like you said, they've worked hard. I do appreciate that, and their aspirations were for more, but certainly been very supportive, as they are.
Well, and I'd like to point out that 5 years ago or whenever we did these, probably longer ago than that, when we did, we hired the consultant to come in and do a strategic plan for the library, and that was, a short-term, long-term plan. At that point in time, we were in discussions with the Library Foundation because their goals were, in fact, their mission was exclusively to raise money for capital projects for the library, capital improvements, capital projects. And you're right, they had said that they were going to have enough funding to buy that building within 5 years after they moved into the new building. So during the discussions with the consultant, the foundation revised their mission statement so that they could provide funding, raise money for and provide funding for things other than capital projects, capital improvements. And I might add that because of that money over the past 3 years, it was very much needed by the library and could be credited for keeping the library open for a good portion of the time that we have been able to continue being open over the course of those past 3 years, because they in fact actually started raising money for programs, and I believe that I know that in fact they were actually providing money on a regular basis for operations, which is critical. And so I don't want to do anything that would alienate the folks with the foundation. As I said, I know at least one point in time, maybe even today, more than half the money that came in from the foundation, which went then to keeping our library open through operations and programming, came from outside the city of Hudson. So, your pleasure.
I was just going to say, what's next is, Mr. Reeves, do you have enough to move
Well,
forward?
I mean, all I could say is from the conversation, from what we've proposed as the ordinance and then what Councilmember Knutson has proposed, the items that I see that everybody, I think, is in agreement with is that one member must be from the council, not may be from the council. That everyone agrees that we should clean up the wording around when the election of officers will occur and then clarify the terms, because we are specifying a January 1 start. But by statute, all terms really are April, as we do with all the other ones. But because we're starting this up, we can clarify those two things. But other than that, besides those three things, I have not heard a consensus on anything else, so I don't know what you want to do for next steps.
Point of information, do we have first reading?
No, so we don't, like I said, if you want to approve the one that we have right now, we can talk about that. But what I said in my memo was I assume there might be changes, and I don't like to make changes on the fly and then try to have any sort of ordinance discussed. So what I'm saying is that we do have some consensus on some changes. So the ones we have consensus on, I can, update the ordinance, we can discuss at some future date, but there's still a number of items that I don't know if the council wants to go through them and vote on them one by one to see if we want to include them in the ordinance, or how would you like to proceed? Like I said, I'm basing off what I'm hearing as consensus, and there's, I think, three things.
Well, could it be just made as a proposal? I don't want to hold the mayor up from his appointments. I think we've all agreed with that idea that we want to stand up a library board that starts to work together, plan for the next budget so that they are ready to step in. So I don't want any of this. I do appreciate the discussion tonight.
I'm thinking if you're being asked to serve on a board, you're going to want to know the expectations and that we might need to have this going along with it.
I'd like to, why don't we, can we move for first reading with the changes that we agree on and then come back with a clean copy for second and possible passage?
I agree with that. In fact, I was going to make the motion to suspend the rules and see if we couldn't hash this out now. But I think it would be better to have a clean copy to do our final vote on. So I'll make the motion that we have the first reading tonight.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion, second for first reading. Do we need a roll call?
Okay, can I propose an amendment?
Sure.
Okay.
It's a friendly amendment.
Friendly
Start
amendment?
with that.
Because I think we should have a vote on the name. I think that it's our job, not the trustees' job, so I move that we name it the Hudson Public Library. And
Right, so
I'm
You
asking
know
for a
what,
friendly.
why don't we,
should we go through each point separately first? And so should I withdraw my motion and we go through each
Well,
point?
everybody stands.
yeah,
All right, I'll withdraw the motion and we'll go through each point separately. Then maybe we will move to suspend the rules
As
if
a
we can
pro-
agree
sort
on
of as a
everything.
yeah, good
Proposal.
point.
As a
Okay,
proposal.
so let's start with the name then.
Okay, I move that we call our municipal library the Hudson Public Library.
All right, we have a motion, is there a second?
Okay, that's
I'll make the
down.
motion to maintain the Hudson Area Library.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, and a second, to maintain the name of the Hudson Area Library. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion's approved.
Okay, the next item, I move that we have, I'm just going to go with 9 members. We'll shorten the process tonight. 9 members, but they will all be Hudson residents.
We have a motion, is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we have 9 members, with 1 member being required to be from the city council, and 2 members from the towns of St. Joe's, Hudson, Troy, and Village of North Hudson.
Did you want to make it 2, or are you up to 2?
Up to 2.
Up to 2, okay, up to 2,
I'll second that.
okay.
Everybody understand the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion's approved.
Okay, the next item, that we insert the wording, the mayor shall appoint 1 member of the common council.
I think I already covered that, didn't I?
That's covered by the last motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, oh, sorry, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Joyce, moving us along.
So
Okay.
can I just weigh in for these last 2? We know what you want. Everybody seems in agreement. Let's clear up the wording for, yes, initially we start January 1, but after that it'll be by statute, which is April. We'll
Or
clean these
April
last 2
appointment.
up. These,
Sure.
we'll let Nick figure out the last 2.
I
We
think
got
everyone
those.
understands that
Yep, we
it
got
makes-
those.
It ties in with the other appointments.
Yep.
A newly elected mayor would have that opportunity to
Yep,
appoint
we'll get
people
those
right
cleaned
away.
up. We know what you're looking for there. I don't think anybody has an issue with those, so.
All right, then I'll make the motion that we have the first reading tonight.
Second.
Motion second to approve first reading tonight, or declare this first reading tonight. And is that a roll call, or is that just a voice vote?
You just do it by voice.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion's approved. Anything else? Everybody good? All right. Class A fermented malt beverage and intoxicating liquor license approval.
Do you need anything?
I would need
I
a
think the
motion.
council, I think the council knows the information, so, unless there's questions of staff.
Well, it was unanimous, or not, yeah, it was unanimous out
unanimous.
of finance, so I will move to approve the liquor license to Skogan Food Liner and Inc. Festival Foods.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
I have some comments to share. Again, I received feedback as well as other council members in favor of needing a new grocery store. I received 0 feedback saying that Hudson needed another liquor store. Some of the issues that they talked about were that competition is good, and which would be true if it was a level playing field. However, pitting a grocery store that has a larger point sale or a purchasing point, who can buy in larger quantities, is not a level playing field with our independently owned liquor stores. If one independent liquor store goes out of business we only have so many, we're not gaining new liquor consumers by adding another liquor license. You are taking the current population, the consumers there, and disperse them out. If that causes one of our independently owned liquor stores to go out of business, does that mean another liquor license comes up for grabs and then another grocery store grabs that, or a big chain comes in? I feel like that's a real slippery slope, and it's not an equitable competition or between a grocery store that if you are shopping and are you going to get back in your car and drive to your local independently owned small town liquor store? Or are you just going to quickly grab what you need there? I guess my final point is I haven't heard from anyone that Hudson needs another liquor store. The statistics that were shared, I think either last meeting or one of the handouts we got, was that in the state of Wisconsin, it's averages one per like 6,800 citizens or residents of a community. I know ours is different than that, but I haven't heard anyone sending me information saying, boy, I wish we had another liquor store. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we should. And if you think we should have another liquor store, then I'm afraid that I don't want to be strong-armed saying if you want a grocery store, you have to have a liquor store.
So are you suggesting that we not award it to anyone? Is that what you're saying? That even though we could award it today?
Yes.
To just leave it on the table, not award it to anyone? Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, the people that have talked to me through the Facebook have a large majority really want a grocery store, and they are, it doesn't matter to them whether there's a liquor store attached to it or not. They want that grocery store. So that's one of the reasons that I'm in favor of awarding the license.
Anybody else?
Well, I think too that, again, when we first broached this subject a month or two ago about changing the rules for grocery stores, that didn't sit well with all of us, or most of us, I should say. But the idea that this kind of organically came about, it seems to go hand in hand with a grocery store which is wanted. To me, the competition thing is sort of a moot point because that's, again, it came here organically. There's no unfairness with this. We have to make decisions what we get most traction out of our decisions. So I feel in favor of that based on the other options that have been put out there.
And I just will echo that. I feel like this is a reasonable compromise. I certainly was uncomfortable opening the floodgates to any grocery store. And at the moment, this is the only grocery store that's coming forward. County Market could have technically applied for a liquor license. I'm under that would be my impression, and they didn't. So I can be comfortable with this, as opposed to thinking that, okay, it could be County Market, it could be the new grocery store, it could be Family Fresh or Fresh and Natural. That did seem like an overabundance of access to liquor in our community.
I don't, just as a point of information, I don't know that, and I don't know this for sure, one way or another, but you brought it up with, maybe I don't want people to hear this.
That's what I thought.
But I don't know that it's accurate that County Market could apply for a license here if they wanted to put it in their store. Because it's my understanding that for that piece of property, there could only be one liquor license over there.
Okay, that makes sense.
I don't have that, in front of me, but that's my
They wouldn't
understanding.
have been able to add that on someplace, given that their neighbor was already a liquor store.
Right.
Got it.
Does anybody know how many square feet of space each of the liquor stores has at this point? I mean, I know they're all different sizes. I was just wondering if there's a range.
Not off the top of our head, we can get
Okay.
that though, yes.
Okay.
What
Well,
if it's the purchasing power, though, too, when you are, that's a chain, they have a larger purchasing power? And when you can purchase things in larger quantity, the cost per unit.
does reduce, yes.
Yes.
Anybody else? Is there a motion?
There was.
Yeah,
Oh,
there was.
do we have a motion second on it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Everybody done? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion's approved. Let's see. Liquor license fire inspections.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members.
Chief?
Who
See ya.
knew liquor licenses were going to be the hot topic tonight? I'll try to make this short. Basically, this was to let the council know that through the liquor license renewal process, we've always attached, or I shouldn't say always, but part of the liquor license renewal is they have to have a successful fire inspection. And that has to be set up prior to May 15th. So as I was going through this spring, I conduct all the liquor license fire inspections for the city. I noticed that at one point, and it's kind of getting whittled down a little bit, over half the establishments in the city have not applied for their liquor licenses and fire inspections. By state statute, every commercial business has to be inspected, has that fire inspection. As I mentioned, Hudson has attached the annual fire inspection to their liquor license process. And in the form that the establishments get, it does specifically say in there that they have to call and schedule a fire inspection. I met with the deputy clerk to discuss this with her, and she had mentioned that the city has always gave courtesy phone calls and emails to try to remind people to get this done. And going through the files from last year after I started, there were several places that never had complied with that. And staff just does not have the time to continually follow up with something that is a privilege for them to have. It's not my liquor license, it's their liquor license, and we're trying to get them to comply with the rules that are set forth. So I guess what I'm looking for from the council as my recommendation is that we extend the deadline. I don't have an issue granting the liquor licenses without having the inspections done this year. But I think moving forward next year, we have to hold fast to this rule. These are places of high occupancy, many of them, limited egresses. We can look through history, right? There's been hundreds of fatalities within these types of establishments because of lack of fire code compliance. And I just think this is very important that these places get inspected. I also don't feel it's fair that those that follow the rules are granted their licenses, and then those that don't can also get their licenses granted with, by not conforming to that. So just looking at the recommendation that we move out the compliance inspections to the beginning of August. And then any violations or any deficiencies would need to be corrected by the 30th of September. And then that way they're covered, they're in compliance. And then moving forward next year, we adhere strictly to this. And then I guess if it comes up for liquor licenses at the council for approval in June, if they have not complied, then I guess they maybe are not granted their liquor license till they're within.
So are there establishments that have gone for several years without having their inspections done?
I can't prove that. I know there was some, I can't say that they weren't done, but the files that I was given from my predecessor was that I found that there was places last year that did not have their fire inspections completed.
And so, Nick, can we pull liquor licenses if they do not get their inspections completed and any corrections made by September 30th?
You can.
Okay.
After notice and the opportunity to be heard, but yes, you can.
What is the notice?
It's just
Like
notice of the violation.
And how much time do they get to correct it?
Well, I mean, they will already have the corrective notice, so we would notify them that the council is going to consider revocation.
Okay.
At an upcoming meeting, give them a date certain at which they could appear. They may request additional time or explain their circumstances, but before we would take that action, we would notify them that it'd be under consideration by the council.
Okay.
I'm not make this punitive. I just think it's very important that they get their inspections done. I mean, these are establishments a lot of people.
No, we need to.
I wanted to offer a little more clarification because I have spoken with Drew about this with the fire chief a couple of times. Because I owned a business that both in Hudson and Richmond where we had spontaneous spontaneous inspection, where unannounced, a fire inspector would come to your business, knock on the door, we're coming through. You know, they don't have to wait 5 minutes for you to clear the pathway or anything, they just come in and inspect. But what is happening in this situation is Drew and his other fire inspector are making appointments with the business owner, so that they have the opportunity to be there and be prepared and make changes. One of the things, you know, I find myself, we're talking about liquor stores and so on, but we're talking about establishments that have a fryer in back because they serve food. You know, they have a grill for burgers and fries and things like that. So it definitely, from what his comments were, there have been a number of violations and corrections that have been needed. So that's why the point of contact and making an appointment has been with the business owner, so that they're there, they understand the import, and have a chance to make the changes. So it's different than our fire inspectors also go into many other businesses sort of unannounced. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. By state statute, a fire inspector, fire marshal can perform an unannounced fire inspection at any reasonable time that they see fit. We just try to schedule them because a lot of times these establishments aren't open till later in the day. This gives a chance for management to be there with us when we go through them, and then we can talk about any deficiencies that come up. So, and we've caught a few, and people are very quick to get them fixed. We've streamlined the process. We don't have to do follow-up inspections anymore. They're able to email myself with their photos of their corrections. It's become very easy to become compliant.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to adopt this policy that's under the staff recommendation of, for this renewal season, only extend the time needed to have the fire inspection completed by August 1st?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make the motion to adopt that staff recommendation.
And I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
I just want to say, we're not here to be a heavy badge.
Nope, absolutely not.
And Karen sends out notices well in advance for them.
Believe it.
So, you know, let's not look backward, let's look forward.
Absolutely.
No, this is a safety issue that needs to be addressed, and thank you for bringing
Yeah,
it
I'm
to
just
our
trying to-
attention, Drew.
Yeah.
And I would just add that having a license is a privilege, not a right. And along with that privilege comes certain obligations. And so, you know, hopefully this will be a good solid reminder that inspections need to be scheduled by the license holder, and that it's really part of their responsibility in holding that license to have these inspections scheduled and completed.
Okay, everybody good? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Thanks,
you.
Chief. All right, closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 Sub E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting the other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. And this is item 1, St. Croix Business Park Public Works parcel.
Move to go to closed session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to go into closed session. Roll call.
Morissette,
Yes.
Wakefield.
Yes.
Knutson,
No.
Kennedy,
Yes.
Bruck,
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Motion's approved. We are now in closed session. We'll step across the hall. All right, we're back in open session. Is Mike back up?
Yep.
I'm here.
Okay, sounds good. All right, back in open session. Do we have a motion?
I make the motion that we reject the counteroffer and authorize city staff and the mayor to resume negotiations.
Second.
Got a motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. I don't have anything. Anybody?
I'd just like to make a comment. I'd like to wish a happy Pride Month to those who are celebrating it, and to call attention to Pride Fest that will be a week from Saturday at Lakefront Park. And it looks like they've got a lot of fun activities planned.
Sounds good. Anybody else?
Yes, I'd like to call attention to the survey that is offered on the city website for engagement in the rezoning evaluation process. It's specifically focused on the downtown district. Recently, our hired consultant group from Cedar Corp recently held several public meetings, and there is a survey that those meetings are also recorded and available on the community development website. So we wanted to encourage residents to take part in that survey. It is always important to get engagement and feedback from our residents. So just wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion and second to adjourn. Any oh, well, you can debate that all night. All those in favor?